Hello successful artists. In this video I'm going to talk about promoting yourself on the radio. My name is Katy and I'm an artist, and I'm making these videos to help out other artists to become successful. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, to make sure that you don't miss any of my advice from my How to Be a Successful Artist series. And if you enjoyed this one, don't forget to click like or share it with your friends, or ask me any questions for future videos below. So this video is about promoting yourself on radio. Now, you might get on radio by chance or by design, which I'll talk about in another video. But basically, you will either be asked to do an interview by after sending out a press release, or you may see an opportunity and grab it. In my example, I saw an opportunity and I grabbed it. Unfortunately, it didn't go as well as I'd hoped, but even the most successful entrepreneurs talk about learning from their failures. So I wanted to talk about my experiences so that you can avoid what happened to me. Now, this particular time, when I scanned pretty much everything that came through my newsfeed, I happened to, which I just can't do anymore, I just don't have the time for that, but I happened to spot a status that came through from World Book Night, and they were asking for stories for their BBC Radio 4 programme about World Book Night and how it, if you'd got a book, how it had affected your life. Now, I'd been a lucky recipient of a book the previous year, and since then I'd been inspired to write my book, The Cat Inspector, which is up there somewhere. I could get that copy. Oops. The Cat Inspector. And so I wrote a little note in the comments about how since I'd started rereading books, I'd been inspired to write The Cat Inspector. And then World Book Night got in contact with me and they asked me a few questions about how I'd been inspired, and they passed that information on to the producer at BBC Radio 4. They contacted me and she asked me a few questions as well, but as I was a bit embarrassed about the fact that I was trying to jump on the bandwagon of the World Book Night and talk about my book, I actually didn't talk to her about my book. We talked about some other things, and then she said she'd send me some questions before the interview, and I would then go to a local radio station to record the interview. Now, this is where I went wrong, because I didn't steer the conversation towards talking about my book, The Cat Inspector, and I should have done, because the initial guy knew about that, so there was nothing I had to hide, but I just felt bad that I was talking about it because it was clearly shameless self-promotion. But I don't think, although the BBC aren't allowed to promote things, I don't think they mind talking about things if there is a reason for it. So I shouldn't have been worried about it, and I should have told her about it. Anyway, the next thing that I did where I went wrong is she did actually send me some questions before the interview for me to have a look at, but for some reason something went wrong. I don't know if they went in my spam folder, some reason happened anyway, I didn't get them. I checked my emails the day of the interview and I suddenly found them. Maybe they were in my spam folder, I don't know, but I printed them out. I didn't have any time to go through them. I went on the train to the interview and I went through them then, and I wrote down my answers. I tried to memorize some answers and things, but I didn't have any practice with anyone, so that when I got into the interview I wasn't really that great. And also I didn't talk about the book until the very end, when I realized it was coming to the end of the interview, and I hadn't mentioned my book. I quickly said, oh, and I just wanted to say I wrote this book, and she started asking me questions about it, but because those questions weren't questions I'd practiced or had any chance to look at all, I really fluffed the answers, and a lot of that was actually edited out of the final interview anyway. And I didn't even mention the title of my book when I had the opportunity in the interview. So this was a Radio 4 audience that I was reaching national coverage, and I did not mention the title of the book. So anybody listening who might have been interested in the book couldn't even go and search for it or find it anyway. So it was a major mistake. So I should have mentioned my book at a much earlier stage. before she sent the questions, really. And then even when she sent the questions, perhaps I should have emailed her back and said, oh, by the way, I have also written a book. Even at that stage, it would have been better than leaving it to the interview. I also should have somehow found the questions, or if I hadn't found them, I should have emailed her back and said I haven't got the questions, so she could resend them to me, because I should have practiced doing those questions with a friend, so that I practiced the answers, so that when I actually got onto the radio I could speak more fluently about the answers. Another problem I had was I was absolutely terrified, and I happened to speak to, so there's some tips that you don't have caffeine before an interview, because that can make you really jittery, and also get somebody to give you a pep talk. I was lucky I had a friend who had recently been doing a lot of promotional work on the TV and radio, and I spoke to them and said, I'm really scared, what do I do? And she was like, you know, you've got to just do it, because if that's what you want to be in life, you want to do that in life, then you are going to need to do those things to get there. Because unless you're very lucky as an artist, you are going to need to do a hell of a lot of PR to get where you want to go. So you're going to have to be used to being on television and being on the radio. That's going to be part of what you do. If you look at artists today, David Hockney, he's been on television, and radio presumably, and there's programs at the moment about artists on television. I mean, what an artist wouldn't give for that coverage of their work. That's all we want is coverage. Artists, we want to make our work and we want people to see it. So if you were given an opportunity of being on the radio tomorrow, would you be ready to speak on the radio? Or if you were given an opportunity to be on television tomorrow and talk about your work, would you actually be ready to be able to do that? And that's why I think it's really important to start practicing with video, even if you're not going to upload it. I mean, I think it's great to upload it onto the internet, but if you don't want to do that, just practice at home. Also, maybe you could practice with podcasts, because that would be similar to the radio. You can either do that by yourself or get some friends to help you or colleagues to help you be on the radio and be interviewed, so that when you actually, if you get more confident about talking about yourself and about your work, that when you actually get to the point of being somewhere where you can reach millions of people, you are ready with what to say and how to say it. So yeah, she basically said, this is what you want, this is what you want to be, so you can't be afraid. Don't be one of those people who lets fear get in the way of what you want. And so it made me feel a little bit better. I was still pretty scared, but it did make me feel stronger and more confident. Now, the only bonus to this was you also get paid for being on the radio or TV. If it's a particular thing, a particular program or something, you can get appearance fee, just a small fee, just to help cover. But that's just another income stream I wanted to mention. So maybe not if you're trying to get free press, but if you happen to be asked onto a radio show or a TV show in your career, then you probably would expect to get an appearance fee. So there's another little bit of income stream that I wanted to mention. I do hope this video has been of some help and a little bit of insight as to what will happen if you go for an interview for radio. Sometimes it can be different. You wouldn't actually have to go into the radio station. Sometimes you would be interviewed over the phone. It just depends what it's for. But anyway, I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.